Hi, Adrian Davis here, and I just wanted to give two quick tips to increase your effectiveness as a sales manager. And the first tip is don't drive looking through the rearview mirror. And what I mean by that is a lot of sales managers, they're very good in terms of looking at their monthly reports, looking at their sales numbers, how many units have moved this month, what is our sales revenue, what is the margin on those deals that we did. And this is important, but we cannot use this as managers to actually manage our people because that would be like driving, looking through the rearview mirror. That's already past. That's history. And you can't really make decisions, effective decisions, based on what's behind you. So you have to look through the windshield and you have to look at what's ahead of you. And so in terms of sales management, what that translates into is yes, we need to be very clear on the outcomes that we're looking for. So we're on the hook for, X millions of dollars or X millions of dollars in margin, whatever that outcome is that we're on the hook for. But then we need to ask ourselves the question, what are the behaviors that I need to see in my team to achieve those outcomes? And so we need to translate those outcomes that we're on the hook for into actual behavior. So, there's a number that we're trying to hit. We need to break that down into, well, how many sales does that number actually break down into? How many sales per salesperson? And then by each salesperson, we need to ask ourselves the question, well, how many proposals does that salesperson need to submit in order to get that number in sales? What's their win rate basically? And then how many conversations do they need to be actively engaged in order to have that number of at-bat opportunities? How many at-bats do they need to have? Okay, well, how many conversations do they need to have? And then based on that, how many first meetings should they have in order to have that number of conversations, in order to have that number of opportunities to submit proposals, in order to close that number of deals to achieve the target that we've set for them. And I would actually, in terms of driving, looking through the rearview mirror, focus on the number of first meetings and manage that. How many first meetings do my salespeople have to have each week? And make sure that they're having those that they're hitting that quantity, they're hitting that number of first meetings. Because without conversations, sales are not going to happen. So the whole key is really the top of the funnel is getting in these new conversations that I call first meetings and manage that. Look at that each week. How many meetings did you have this week? How many meetings did you have last week? How many meetings are you planning to have next week? And how many meetings did you have this month compared to last month? How many first meetings did you have this quarter compared to this same quarter last year or this quarter, the previous quarter? And just really obsess on number of first meetings. So that's the first tip is don't drive looking through the rearview mirror, look through the windshield. The second tip is actually don't drive. Don't drive. When I go to the gym to work out, there's a driving school nearby, and you see the students going in and out and getting their tests, whether or not they can get their license. And the instructor doesn't do the driving for them. The instructor sits in the passenger seat and guides them, coaches them, makes sure that they're developing the skills to be effective. And I think that's really, a great manager is really a great coach. And a lot of managers are just so busy, they're not really coaching and mentoring their people. And I think so. The second tip is to really be a mentor, to be a coach, to be a developer of your people. And so once you're clear about the outcomes that you're driving toward and the behaviors that you need to achieve or that your people need to achieve those outcomes, then really obsess on those behaviors. So we talked, for example, about first meetings. If that was the case, then maybe we would say, in order to hit their target, in order to really have a successful year this year, not only do they have to have that number of first meetings, but we may also say that they need to improve the quality of those first meetings. And so, or discovery meetings or whatever the case is. So the behavior we may want to target is how they conduct their meetings. And so what I would recommend you do is set up a coaching agreement and focus on one behavior at a time. Don't try to coach everything. Just, John or Sally or Sue or whoever it is that you're coaching, let's sit down and have an agreement between us as to how I can help you. And so what I, and get them to kind of come to the conclusion that, yeah, you know what, the behavior I need to focus on is the quality of my meetings. Okay, great. Let's see how we can help you with that. So you're actually going to draw up an actual contract. And I have a template for this that I'm happy to share with anybody who asks. Just if you email me at adrian@adriandavis.com, that'll be fine, or adavis@whetstoninc.ca. But it's say adrian@adriandavis.com. That's probably easiest. So I'll send you the template. Basically, you put this agreement together, and it basically says, the names of the parties, and that, we have agreed to focus on this particular behavior. And then, so what's the purpose of the agreement? And then basically we're going to come to an agreement as to, we are here. I have agreed to help you get better at, the conducting quality meetings. So that's the agreement. We have agreed that I'm going to help you get better at conducting quality meetings. Once we've done that, then we're going to agree, okay, you're going to do these things. You're going to ensure that you have, let's say it's eight quality meetings per month, 2 per week. And you're going to set an agenda for those meetings. You're going to do the research that you need to do, and you're going to put a plan together before you put that agenda together. So those are the things you're going to agree to do. I'm going to agree to ensure that you have resources to help you when you're doing your research. I'll also agree to review your agendas before you send them out to your prospects or your customers. So if that's what you're going to do, that's what I'm going to do. And this is the formal agreement that we've agreed to. And we're going to focus on this, let's say, over the next 3 months, the next quarter. And then we stick to this contract. The individual then goes out and begins to do these things. We sit down and follow up with them, maybe on a weekly basis, and we provide feedback to them. So we're able to give them some quality feedback, maybe listen to their calls or go out on meetings with them, and give them, or look at their agendas, look at their research, and give them very specific feedback, and actually record that, the date that you met with them, the feedback that you gave them, how they responded to that feedback. And then as they begin to improve, and so we will do this on a weekly basis or bi-weekly basis, however frequently you meet with your people, and then record their progress and reward them and praise them. Let them know that you've noticed that they're making a difference, because again, what we're trying to do is change the behaviors, because it's the behaviors that will drive the outcomes. So we can't manage the outcomes, but what we can do is manage the behaviors. And so we give them feedback, etc., encourage them. And then once they get that behavior, so now they're, quality meetings, or they're hitting their number of meetings, they're doing the research for those meetings, they're developing an agenda for those meetings based on a good plan for that prospect or that customer. And this has now become a habit, and they are conducting much higher quality meetings, or if it was writing proposals or their presentations, whatever behavior we've decided upon, they're now raising the standard of their performance, and you're going to acknowledge that, and give them very specific praise of what you've observed and what you've noticed. And then finally, when they get to that level where the behavior has improved and you're happy with their performance, then you formally close that contract and sign off on it and reward them, maybe have a little bit of a celebration. And then you'll observe the next behavior. So that's great. You're doing a great job now of getting in front of people, moving it to the next level. But maybe your discovery is not as strong as it could be. And so we're going to sit down and we're going to agree, and you're going to get them to kind of coach themselves in the sense that they come to the realization through your help that, the next thing that I probably need to work on is better discovery. And then again, wash, rinse, repeat. And so you're always coaching specific people on specific behaviors. And that's how you improve your quality and your value as a manager. And so your salespeople are actually seeing, wow, my manager is actually here to help me. And the process just becomes a lot more enjoyable. So those are my 2 quick tips for improving your effectiveness as a sales manager. Number 1, don't drive looking through the rearview mirror. Look through the windshield. And that is, don't look at just simply manage based on the outcomes. You have no control over that, whether the customer buys or not, what the actual revenues are at the end of the month. You can't control that. So look through the windshield, and that is to focus on what you can can control, and that is to make a connection between the outcomes and the actual behaviors that will drive those outcomes. So that's number one. And then number two, what I said was actually don't drive. Make sure that you're not the one driving. It's the salespeople that you hire that should be doing the driving. And so what you're doing is you're sitting in the passenger seat as the coach, as the mentor, as the instructor, as the encourager, the cheerleader almost, to make sure that they're doing an effective job and they're developing the skill sets that you know are important to their success and yours. Hope that helps.